I understand. Yes, you should recuse yourself.
I will, this opportunity to recuse myself.
I guess we don't need to go the adjournment anyway, so it's okay.
No, we don't need it.
Somebody in the car is here. Fucking alarm. Open up a cat house.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say with all due respect to our new labor council, Frank, all due respect, at the last meeting, we came out of executive session and we voted to hire Frank, obviously, and I'm very happy about that. I was part of the interviewing process and I thought he was a great choice for our labor attorney. However, we also have a pending lawsuit where Mr. Dorff has been very involved in that. He reduced his rate to $165 per hour, and what I would like to do is make a motion that Mr. Dorff continue to work that litigation to close that out, which should be finished very soon. So I'd like to make that motion.
I could comment on it now or after it's been seconded.
There'll be a motion, second,
Okay.
discussion, and then there'll be a vote.
Sure.
Well,
If there is a second.
I don't know if there is.
well, can I tack on to what she's saying here before we make our motion, so it's a little bit clearer?
Did you made the motion? So now
I'm
we-
making the motion for Jerry Dorff to continue to act as special counsel for the pending litigation, just that one, nothing else. Because he reduced his rates to $165 an hour. And I believe he had that conversation with you, Joe, earlier last week.
Okay, so that's the motion. If we have a second, then it goes into discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay. So now, there's a discussion.
Yes, and I guess I'm assuming since you approved the issue, I can discuss contract negotiations in public, since she's raised the issue, and I want to correct the record. Prior to appointing Frank Tadeo as Labor Counsel, I personally had 2 conversations with Jerry Dorff and asked him if he would reduce his rate. He said he would not reduce his rate, and he still will not reduce his rate. He's still at the $265 or whatever it is an hour. Previously, on 2 occasions, he said he would reduce his associate's rate to $200 an hour, and that was a discussion we had. Frank then came in, bid $165, and was awarded $165 after we voted as a committee for nothing. I called Mr. Dorff the next day to let him know that he had been replaced. He then threatened to file a lawsuit against Greenwich Township because he had a renewal contract. And I can tell you as an attorney under the RPCs, when that happens, there is a conflict. So I can tell you comfortably, and I'm sorry, it's my legal opinion, he's conflicted out because he threatened to file a lawsuit. I didn't want to bring this up in public, but I'm sorry, if there's going to be a motion on it, the township committee needs to be aware of it. And he stated that, you know, I can force you to pay me, and I can force you to continue to be, and I got to tell you, I've been licensed to practice law since '92. I've never had a conversation with a client where I've said to them, I'm going to force a continued relationship. If a client wants to get rid of me, I shake their hand and I wish them well. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, I have an invoice here that he billed after he knew he was no longer counsel. He billed us $3,000 to transfer the file to Mr. Tadeo, and there's another $17,314.40, which is outstanding. Most of the work which was done, some of it was done in the middle of December, so we had some of this money absolutely is in accordance with him being approved, but there was much work done after January 1 before he was authorized to do it. And I can tell you right now, in light of the conversations I've had, and quite honestly, you know, the fact that he's willing to now have an associate drop to 165 after he lost the contract. I have to ask you, what are you thinking that you would want to revisit that issue and go back to someone who has, and of course, you didn't know that he threatened to hold us to the contract and said, I suggest that you read it because you don't have the authority to do it, because you didn't raise this with me before, but had you, I would have told you that. I hope that the information I've shared with you now makes you uncomfortable in going back to Mr. Dorff.
Well, I think the information that I'll share with you might make you a little uncomfortable. What I'd like to say is, a couple things. When we voted the last time, I did not know that, because Elaine recused herself, if it had been we were given inaccurate information and we voted saying that we had to make a decision that night. If it had been a tied vote, Mr. Dorff would have continued to finish his case. Now, he did not threaten a lawsuit, so I think you're taking some liberty to take that a step further from that conversation. What he said to you.
Were you part of that conversation?
No, he told me what he said.
Oh, okay.
He said,
Okay. Just want the
have
record
you
to be
read my contract? And you said to him, are you threatening to file a lawsuit against the township? He said, I did not say that. I said, did you read my contract, that he has a continuing contract,
With
okay?
okay.
So there's a motion on the table.
Right.
So I want to get that straight because
Okay.
I think,
Look, if you're comfortable in voting yes for this, in light of everything that's been discussed, it's your prerogative. You're entitled to. It's a democracy. So roll call, please.
Well, can I say something real quick? I received a letter today from Mr. Dorff. I still haven't received the file. I sent him something over the weekend. He sent me a letter. Apparently there's a trial. I don't know what status or what state the case is in right now. Apparently there's 2 docket numbers, so I'm guessing there's 2 separate matters that were joined at one point. But he wasn't clear in his letter, but it seemed that there was a trial date because of the way he wanted me to draft a substitution of attorney, which would include obtaining written consent from the client and counsel and everybody else, and making various certifications. So, just to be clear, I haven't received anything from Mr. Dorff
I know,
other
that's,
than that letter.
that's part of the other concern that I have in terms of his dilatory behavior, where he's putting the township at risk by not timely reacting to the 4-0 vote of this committee. It's a concern of mine, but.
And I haven't had a chance to speak to Mr. Dorff today.
I
I was in
understand.
depositions, but I would have called him normally.
didn't he say that if you send a courier there tomorrow, the files are all ready?
The letter, I got a letter this morning, it was a 5-page letter that said, going forward, transferring the files. I had somebody go through them last week and spend several days organizing the file. Usually, in my experience, the new attorney prepares the substitution attorney. I didn't have any of the information of the case, which is why I asked him to do it in the letter. He provided me with a court rule, something else, and I think a caption, but not the actual substitution attorney, said that in the letter that I could make arrangements to have a messenger go there and pick up the files tomorrow
Morning.
as well as get a signed substitution attorney, which I didn't have time to do. I was in the office today,
But
but
they're
generally I would have
ready
picked up the
tomorrow.
phone and called him. I don't do letters back and forth, I just pick up the phone. I haven't had that opportunity, and just so it's clear, I still don't have anything on it or any details about it.
That's unfortunate.
With this thing, I'm conflicted with this because when we had the meeting, our last meeting, we took what you told us, and then Tanya had spoken to Jerry afterwards, and then he kind of came back, he came back with slightly, a little bit different than what you had told us,
Well, I want the record to be clear. What he told me is what I told you. After he learned that Frank got the job, he said, quote, "What can I do to keep this account? I'm willing to, I know I told you too, I'm willing to go to 165. That's completely improper. That's completely improper.
Let me be clear, I'm not accusing anyone.
I just want the record to be
of
clear.
misstating anything, there's two different stories here. One
No,
from him-
there's not two different
Well,
stories.
For me, there is, because it's what you said, it's what he said.
Well, I think if Jerry knew that you said that he was gonna file a lawsuit against the township, I think that he would be extremely upset by going on record saying
But
that.
you know what, Tan, you're the one who brought it up, so
We had a discussion.
you went there.
The discussion,
There's a reason why we discuss these things
the
in executive
discussion that we
session.
voted 4-0 on was obviously monetary.
it was also for reasons of fresh set of eyes on the case.
That's correct.
We all voted that way, you voted that way, you voted that way,
Mhm.
and we all discussed like normal adults how we wanted to proceed going forward in this township. So please, don't renege now.
It's not,
Please, don't, and don't say any mistake
it's
either.
not.
Because I thought we had a great conversation, it was healthy, it was how are we gonna move this township forward on this litigation that's cost us a bucket load of dough, and how are we gonna start mitigating the costs according to this thing.
$17,000
And we're gonna move
in the
forward
next
with
30 days.
With a, as I interviewed Frank together, he's totally competent in what he's doing, he has an unbelievable amount of experience in these matters. And you know what, a fresh set of eyes, we all agreed would be beneficial to the township going forward, being that Mr. Dorff has gotten us where we've gotten so far. And that was unanimous, there was no arguing, there was no fighting, there was no nothing. But why all of a sudden now, does this guy wanna come back? It makes me nervous, having a guy who was the man of the hour, you know, claimed, you know, in the papers that he was worth every penny, which I don't know, because I wasn't involved in the case, I just stepped on, but would not relent on his price, and to this day, it comes down to 165, and it's not even for him. It's not even for him we're getting for 165. He's still 250. It's an associate that I don't know, that we don't know what kind of experience they have. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm not comfortable. I know what I'm getting right there for
And
165,
I
and
also-
I'm comfortable with it.
I
And this
also-
town should be comfortable with it.
I also want to add that there were discussions relative to him telling me to read the contract, that we didn't have the authority to do what we did, and that I need to read the contract because there's problems, we're gonna have problems. And then I have a conversation and do some research, and I find out that because we're a public entity, you can't even have a contract more than 1 year, it's not enforceable. I bring that up with him, and then he says, oh yeah, I knew that, I wasn't gonna really enforce it. So now we have supposedly our attorney intentionally misquoting the legal status of things. I mean, look, I don't care, this is what's said. You brought it up, you want transparency, you got it. That's exactly the way it went down. And I could tell you something, you wanna have him back as counsel? Yeah, I don't know
Did
what
you
your
not-
agenda
did you
is,
not tell
but
him,
there's
though, that
no way you can tell me that in light of what I've told you, you don't wanna withdraw that motion. You've got some agenda and it's not the taxpayer, let me tell you.
Hey, Joe, did you not tell him when he had the conversation with you that you were bringing it back to the committee for discussion?
No, I never told him that. Actually, he hung up the phone on me that night, in the middle of the conversation, if you wanna know the truth. So, I would suggest that since you're not a party to the conversation, whatever information you got, you're obviously being played.
Oh, I don't,
Look, that's
see,
fine.
you know something, Joe, there you go with the condescending tone, so.
It's not condescending, I'm telling you the
You're making me
facts.
sound like I'm stupid and I'm not,
You don't
okay?
you don't like the truth.
No, I'm not stupid, Joe.
All right.
I'm very intelligent, I'm pretty successful.
Yeah, roll call please to adjourn the motion, to adjourn
No.
the meeting. Roll call.
No, we're on we have a motion
Oh.
on the table.
All right, roll call on the motion to rehire Jerry Dorff
Yes.
as special labor counsel.
Perez?
Before I give you my vote, I just want to say to Tom that I brought this up because I just wanted to make sure that we had all the information that we were supposed to have. So I just want to be clear with that, okay?
And we did.
And now it's it.
You're out of bounds in suggesting that. You are suggesting I didn't provide you the information, and quite frankly, Tanya, shame on you, and I resent it.
Well,
As an officer of the court, under penalty of perjury, I have not misrepresented a single sentence. That is a fact. And as a member of the District Ethics Committee appointed by the Supreme Court, you are out of bounds. How dare you? How dare you
I didn't
suggest?
say anything.
You did say
I
it.
didn't even say anything. I did not even say anything.
I don't think the suggestion was made that.
Oh, it was. The record speaks for itself. Though people can go on the camera and look and see what you
Okay,
said.
well, I don't think that the intent was to come out and say that you lied or anything like that. And I think I made that clear, that, we just wanted to make sure that what was said is the facts. Because again, you told us one thing, he told us another, and that's why it's being brought up. That's all there is to it. There isn't anybody being blamed for anything like that.
Roll call, please. Yeah, roll call.
Perez?
No.
Siegel?
Yes.
Clark?
No.
Torriello?
No. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
All in favor?
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks.